Hello and welcome to this week's very special edition of Whether or Not. I'm your host, Brian Michigan, joined by my co-host for this week's show, Jimmy Wendolek. Now, this is the first time since March 4th of 2020 that we are finally back in the studio, and we really look forward to this week's show. We have a feature by Dana Osgood on emergency management, and Caroline Castora has your forecast. But Jimmy, we got to get through Nature in the News first. What kind of Nature in the News stories do you have on tap for us tonight?
Well, I'm very excited about today's show, and I'm very excited to tell you all about my Nature in the News stories. They are both about birds today. First, I have a Nature in the News story about a group of birds who are a little too smart for their human counterparts, and then a second about something about birds that researchers in Chicago have noticed. How about you, Brian?
I've got Nature in the News stories about the recent tornado in New Orleans, as well as a cloud formation that looks a whole lot like a UFO.
Ah, awesome, Brian. And with that, let's get into Nature in the News. Tracking birds in Australia was a little more difficult than researchers thought it would be. Scientists were hoping to collect data on magpies, a small bird that is thought to be one of the smartest creatures on the planet. 5 birds had a small harness placed on them that would track their movement, but that was not even the most exciting part of the experiment. The harnesses used are the first of their kind, weighing only 1 gram and detaching from the birds when they get close to a magnetic station. The lightweight design eliminates any worries of the trackers weighing down the birds and changing their flight habits. While scientists were in love with the new devices, the magpies were not. The birds immediately started working on removing the harnesses, repeatedly pecking at them. More interestingly, the birds began working as a team to remove them, and 4 of the 5 birds were successfully able to. While it wasn't their initial goal, researchers were amazed by what the birds were able to accomplish by working together.
Last week kept meteorologists in the Deep South busy with severe storms that caused extensive damage in Louisiana, Texas, Alabama, and surrounding states. Thunderstorms resulted in numerous reports of flooding rain and damage from straight-line winds, and even a few dozen tornadoes, including some that ripped right through one of the South's most populous cities. The tornadoes ravaged parts of New Orleans, heavily damaging homes, causing power outages, and even, unfortunately, a few fatalities. While surveying the damage, the National Weather Service confirmed 2 tornadoes in the area. One of the twisters impacted Lacombe, located in St. Tammany Parish, and a second which made its way through Lower 9th Ward in New Orleans, in St. Bernard Parish. The stronger of the 2 tornadoes was the St. Bernard tornado, which was classified as an EF3 on a scale from 0 to 5, with wind speeds of 135 to 165 miles per hour. This was the worst tornado the area has experienced since 2017, compounding challenges that still linger from the impacts of the active 2020 and 2021 hurricane seasons. The governor of Louisiana issued a state of emergency in 4 parishes in New Orleans, hoping that this declaration will help the region get the aid they need to recover.
For decades, scientists have been asking what causes birds to fly into skyscrapers. But now, a new question is being asked. Over the years, researchers in Chicago have noticed something. Some species of birds are more likely to fly into buildings than others. Why? Some of the most commonly found birds on the city skyline are rarely found dead after crashing, but other, less common species are found almost every morning. The answer may have to do with how much the birds talk to each other. All of the birds that most commonly collide with buildings use frequent, short vocal calls to communicate and navigate at night. As one bird is drawn towards a brightly lit building in the dark of night, it calls out to its friends to follow. Those calls are unintentionally calling groups of birds towards the skyscraper and calling them to their death. The good news is that skyscrapers have become more bird-friendly over the years, with patterned glass that is easier for birds to spot, and even netting being placed around buildings.
Last week in the United Kingdom, many people were shocked to look up and find something that looked like it came straight out of a sci-fi movie. These strange cloud formations, known as lenticular clouds, are some of the rarest cloud types that form in our atmosphere. Commonly mistaken for UFOs, these clouds have been described as motionless, even on the windiest of days, adding to the rather ominous appearance. These clouds form in areas of elevated terrain in air conditions that are both stable and humid. As winds blow over hills and mountains, water vapor in the air condenses to form clouds that often appear layered and stay in the same place, known as standing wave patterns. The clouds appear to be motionless because as the water droplets that make up the clouds form, they are carried by wind and later evaporate in a fixed position downstream. These areas of condensation and evaporation remain in nearly the same place, leaving the clouds in that same position.
Hello everyone, it's student meteorologist Caroline Castora here with your Central Pennsylvania forecast. As we move into the beginning of April, I think we're all hoping for more spring-like weather, and I think we're going to get a glimpse of that as we move into the weekend and even the beginning of next week. So looking at Friday, we had this cold front move through our area Thursday, bringing us drenching rain and even some severe weather for our area. Behind that, we're going to have some light snow showers and rain showers as temperatures are going to dip a little bit, but nothing compared to what we experienced last weekend with bitter cold and rain and even snow squalls like we experienced at the beginning of last week. Moving into Saturday, this is the best day of the weekend. Temperatures are going to be mild and at or near around average for this time of year, and skies are going to be sunny, and it'll be a great day for you to get outside and even start your springtime garden if that's something you want to do. And moving into Sunday, our next rain chance comes again, but again, it's not going to be anything significant like what you experienced on Thursday with that drenching rain. It's going to be a light drizzle with minimal accumulations, no flooding risk at all, and temperatures are going to be mild, so they're going to be near normal for this time of year, and if it's not raining, try and get outside and walk your dog and experience this nice spring-like weather. So looking at Friday, high temperature is going to be 46. That's below average for this time of year in our area. However, it could be much colder like we experienced last week. And again, we have that chance for showers, even snow showers in the higher elevations. Moving into Friday night, temperatures will drop down to 29, again, which is below average, and we'll have partly cloudy skies before the temperatures rebound very nicely for Saturday. And we're going to have a really nice and mild day with mostly sunny skies in our area. Moving into Saturday night, temperatures are going to drop down into upper 30s, but it's not going to be too cold. And then again, I put that we have a chance for rain late at night as we move into the Sunday hours. And that's for Sunday when we have the chance for showers during the day. But again, there'll just be pockets of light drizzle. And now it's time for Dana's feature story on emergency management.
Emergency management is like the quiet cousin of meteorology. It is involved in so many aspects of meteorological communication, but to the public, they are weaved together. A recent example is Flood Awareness Week in 2022, which was March 14th through 18th, and is an important time for emergency managers. Opportunities like this give them a platform to publish important information that can inform the public. Since weather and emergency management are so intrinsically connected, it is important to get it right. Ben Reppert is a lecturer of meteorology at Penn State University and has a master's degree in emergency management.
So much like meteorologists, when meteorologists have to be on top of every possible weather event when it comes to forecasting and communicating, emergency managers, it's much of the same.
Emergency managers focus more on the planning aspect of events and how to navigate possible challenges, while meteorologists spend their time forecasting the cause of the possible issues that could potentially impact the event. Therefore, the two collaborate a lot. But Reppert says emergency managers have a clear goal in mind.
These threats exist. They don't really pick who they affect and who they don't. So it falls on the emergency managers to make sure that everyone has the appropriate plan in place to try to stay safe from these weather events.
It is also the job of emergency managers to step in and help those who could not stay safe for the duration of the event due to extenuating circumstances. It is important to help communities recover from events that cause damage, to provide assistance where it is needed, and to learn how to improve communities so they are not negatively impacted again. One example would be flooding. Flooding is the second most common cause of weather-related deaths, and this trend is not decreasing. Reppert says flooding has become a major focus for emergency managers for two main reasons: because flood events are becoming more dangerous and are happening more frequently, and because people are not understanding the messaging associated with flood-related warnings.
A lot of folks don't understand that flooding is just as big of a risk that comes with thunderstorms or tropical systems, in addition to, say, high winds or tornadoes or other things like that.
Ruppert says that people also need to understand how flooding is changing. Changes in land use, for example, the switch from forests to crop fields or buildings, causes changes in where water flows and pools. Where water collects is often hard to predict until a flood occurs. That is another reason why communication in this area is so important. Just because your house never flooded before does not mean that it cannot flood in the future.
Everyone needs to essentially know their risks, have a plan in place, and they can't go into any sort of weather event, especially flooding, thinking that they're 100% safe.
And how these plans are being distributed is changing too. Social media has become a major aspect of both meteorology and emergency management. With a large majority of the population having access to cell phones, using platforms like Twitter to spread out information quickly and effectively makes a huge difference. For example, on Monday, I received over 5 loud alerts from the National Weather Service on my phone warning of potential snow squalls. But Ruppert says there's a downside to the rise of social media.
Social media is a blessing and a curse because it also introduces a lot of misinformation. So when you use social media to communicate threats to the public, you need to establish yourself as a credible source early, and you need to keep that engagement going.
Keeping the line of communication open is very important. Ruppert says even if you have nothing new to update, you want to inform people of that. Otherwise, they may go looking for other information and may find misinformation instead. And sometimes, misinformation is easier to believe than the real information, especially if the real information is not well explained. The key for helping the public understand these important messages comes down to a few key aspects.
So it starts with making sure your information is accurate. Clear and concise messaging, so that pretend like you're talking to a grandparent, explaining something at a second grade reading level. Leaving out the overly scientific jargon that will just lose people or make it hard for them to understand what they need to do.
Overall, emergency management is a very important aspect of meteorology that is not always recognized and appreciated. They provide a lot of important information to the public to ensure that people can keep themselves and their belongings safe. For Weather or Not, I'm Dana Osgood.
And now, here's your extended forecast. As we move into the first week of April, we're going to have more spring-like weather. Along with that comes higher temperatures, sunny skies, but also a chance for rain. This is reflected in our weekend recap, where we have a high temperature of 46 on Friday with a chance for rain, but we increase in temperature on Saturday for a really nice mild day with sunny skies on Friday and a high temperature of 53, before dropping a little bit on Sunday for a high temperature of 51 and another chance for rain showers. Moving into the week, Monday and Tuesday are going to be a beautiful day for our region. Temperatures are going to be above average at around 57, 58 degrees, and then we're going to have mostly sunny skies before the rain chance moves in again for the end of the week. You know what they say, April showers bring May flowers. These are your April showers starting to pop up in your forecast. They're going to be light chances, on and off spotty showers, not a complete washout for the end of the week. And then temperatures, you can see on Friday, they begin to drop off towards the upper 40s. And now, here's your quiz answer.
Thanks, Caroline. I really look forward to seeing how the month of April plays out. And now, here's your Weather Whiz quiz question. How many confirmed tornadoes were there in the vicinity of New Orleans on March 22nd? Is it A, 0, B, 1, C, 2, or D, 3?
And the correct answer is C, 2 tornadoes. It was really terrible to see the devastation down there last week. Really hope they get what they need to recover quickly.
Yeah, certainly a scary week for the people of New Orleans, and that was actually the strongest confirmed tornado in the area since 2017.
Yeah, just terrible to see. And that about wraps up this week's edition of Weather or Not. We thank you all for tuning in and hope to see you again next week. But until then, I'm Jimmy.
And I'm Brian. Have a great week.